It's been a turbid time at Hampshire College with talks of mergers, downsizing, and a stream of resignations. But newly installed President Ed Wingenbach said he's eager to take on the challenges facing the college. With just about a month under his belt, I asked him how he's found his feet.
First thing I found is that living out here in this part of the country is really wonderful. I came out from Wisconsin, and we've got all the nice rural things in the area, but the concentration of arts and culture and commerce and nice restaurants, it's a really kind of a utopic combination of things. My family and I have really enjoyed living here. What I found at Hampshire so far is that it's a community of people who are extraordinarily dedicated to the success of the college and to the really distinct vision of what it means to be a college student. And talk to students, you talk to alums, you talk to people in the community, you talk to the faculty, and everyone's got a really clear picture of what Hampshire does that's different from everybody else. It's students define their own questions, define their own processes, and so rigorously pursue that across 4 years, and nobody else does that. People love the idea and they want to make it work.
As you point out, Hampshire College is uniquely positioned, and it's been a unique time at Hampshire over the past year. A lot of ups and downs. Quick timeline for folks who are watching who might not be aware. There's been some turmoil. In January, the former president, Miriam Nelson, announced that Hampshire College really needed a partner to merge with if they were going to survive financially. February, the school came out and said, you know what, we're going to admit a much smaller freshman class. And then in April, the president resigned. Some of the board of trustees members resigned because the rest of the board decided, you know what, we're not going to go forward with that merger plan. We're going to shift back and say, head toward fundraising again. You were at Ripon College in Wisconsin while this was all going on. Were you watching from there, following the news, or did you learn about it when you got here?
I was following it really closely, as is almost everybody in higher education. I mean, Hampshire College is sort of the key college in the liberal arts community. It's this sort of really interesting, innovative place that everybody learns from, and so everybody pays attention to it. We were all watching, many of us in kind of shock from the outside of what was going on. And so when they decided to stay independent and announced that they were looking for somebody to come be the president, I'm sort of at a point in my career where I think I can do that kind of work and care deeply about Hampshire, and so that's why I asked to come do this.
It's unique that you would want to put up your hand and say, hey, take me, because I think a lot of people would look at the situation and think, no thank you, 10-foot pole, give me another 20 feet, I'm not touching that, right?
Well, I mean, I wasn't the only person who looked at this. There were a lot of people who were eager to come help Hampshire. It's a really important place. The way I would put this, though, from my perspective, is I was having a conversation recently with the person we just hired to come on as our Chief Advancement Officer, Jen Chrysler, who starts in another week.
Who's familiar with the region, right?
She is, yeah. She came from Smith, but she built their alumni organization, which is a really ideal one. But what she and I were talking about is like, you really, in your professional career, you might only get one opportunity to do something as important as saving an epic, distinctive place. Right? And so why wouldn't you want to do that? The other thing I would say about it is that, that Hampshire College, for me, expresses the ideal of what higher education should be if people had the courage to let students guide their own education and support them. And if there's no place in higher education for Hampshire College, I'm not sure I really want to be in higher ed. So it's not really a thing I'd want to stay away from. Right? Jumping in and making it work is a perfect opportunity and a great mission.
One more bit of news that I want to ask you about, have us touch on here. At the end of August, Daily Hampshire Gazette broke a story that former President Miriam Nelson had been in talks with the Chancellor of UMass Amherst about Hampshire merging. How did you learn about the fact that had been going on?
Well, we knew that there were conversations going on, that she had been looking for the variety of potential partners. I didn't know how far those had gone and what those negotiations looked like. So that was new for me, as it was for, I think, most of our community.
So the trustees made you aware of those conversations before you came on board or as you were coming on board?
Yeah, and I don't think it was a secret that there were conversations with multiple partners. The details of that were being kept very close to the vest, I think, last spring.
Yeah, because some of those details were that Hampshire would need to close completely, according to these emails, drastic layoffs. There was even uncertainty if the college's unique model that you laid out in the outset of this discussion and the name would even survive.
Right.
So
Right.
those were shocking to you and the trustees?
Yeah, I think everybody was surprised by that, by the level of detail in those emails. I don't think it's surprising that UMass would take that position. I mean, they're protecting their own interests. They're pursuing what their mission is, which is not the same as our mission. I think what it verified for people was the decision made in April that really the only way a place like Hampshire can survive is to survive on its own. That nobody is going to look at Hampshire and say, well, here, we will make up the gap in your budget and let you keep doing what you're doing. That's an unlikely outcome. And so if what we do matters and if people care about what we do, then we have to do it on our own. And fortunately, when it became clear that there was a real acute threat to Hampshire being able to continue to innovate and experiment, the alums and our students and our faculty all stepped forward to try to say, we will support this place, we will make it work, including our partners in the 5 colleges, who also worked with us really closely to try to give us the window of time we need to reestablish a viable model.
To that point about raising money so that you can survive financially, what's the number you're working toward and how close are you?
Right. So our hope for this year, between January of last year and June of next year, is somewhere between $17 and $20 million. We've raised to date $9 million in cash and pledges. I think we have a pretty clear path to raise another 9 between now and the end of the fiscal year.
So at the time, President Nelson and the former head of trustees, Kim Saul, said, this is dire. If we do not find this merger partner, we're going to close in the next few years.
Right.
So is that still a threat if you don't meet this fundraising threshold?
Well, I would say 2 things about that. I think the assumptions going into that decision to pursue a merger, I think there were 2 assumptions being made there. One was that there wasn't a way to shift the cost structure at Hampshire College in meaningful ways, and 2, that the alumni base and other people in the community didn't have the funds or the willingness to support us. And if those 2 things were true, then they were right? Hampshire College, at spending the amount of money it was spending with the level of support it was getting in fundraising, couldn't survive on its own. The threat of closure unlocked both of those potential, And so what we've done over the last 6 months is really significant restructuring to the cost basis of the college, and we need to keep working on that in ways that hadn't happened for a decade, and this massive outpouring of support from our alums and others who care about Hampshire College. So it turns out that we can adjust our cost structures and rethink the way we deliver this really wonderful experience, and there are a lot of people with resources who are willing to provide them to us as we do that.
You said when you were coming in that students should put Hampshire back on that list to come and take a look at. It's a big risk. Why should they do that?
Well, it's not really a risk, I don't think. I mean, you should come to Hampshire because you can do at Hampshire things that you can't do anywhere else in America. There's the kinds of things that you can do at Hampshire that every student does are the things that only the very best and most privileged students get to do at campuses around the country. So that's not a risk, that's a huge opportunity, and you should come here and do it.